Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to our regularly scheduled SIG Usability, first one for 2020. Today we have Gabby, who's going to do an overview of some of the work she's done for some of the usability studies that we plan to do, hopefully kicking those off within the next quarter. And then after her, if Pamela sorts out some internet issues that she's having, Pamela will do a presentation on some iconography work she's been doing. So Gabby, go for it.
Cool. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So this is what I showed last time, pretty kind of like a draft of a jobs type survey. If y'all were here last time, you kind of like saw these kind of like high level profiling questions. I sent it out to the Google group, and some people sent back some great feedback. So thank you for that. I think we had some additional questions around where do these people have their environment located? Like, is it on premise, or is it in a public cloud somewhere, or somewhere in between? But I guess the bulk of the survey are these jobs questions. And what I've done since then is I've started transferring this over into a SurveyMonkey. This link is still in the Google, the original Google Doc. So if anybody goes in and just kind of like clicks this link right here, you should get the preview of the survey here in SurveyMonkey. So a little bit like higher fidelity per se. So these are for the most part the same questions, but just wanted to go ahead and start switching it over. Basically, if people want to go through and just like click through this, take it yourself, the idea would be to send this to as many Kubernetes user type people that would be able to help us out with kind of like giving us their perspective, especially on the questions here. So I guess like what we're trying to find out from this, hopefully, maybe it doesn't feel as lightweight now, but the intention was for it to be lightweight, is just to kind of start collecting use cases. What are you trying to achieve with Kubernetes? And so I don't usually at this stage of collecting jobs, people do it via interview style. The idea of putting it into a survey form was to also give us the chance to start doing some baselining, just general like, a lightweight NPS question. And then pretty important here would it be okay for someone from the open source community to follow up with you about your response? So if we liked their responses, and wanted to kind of like do a little bit of a deep dive, maybe like a 15-minute call or a 30-minute deep dive, this would give us the information to do that. And the long-term goal of this would be to kind of have a centralized, something that we can contribute to all of the SIGs in the community. So kind of like a centralized place where we show the results of the survey in a little bit more like jobs to be done format, where as a community, we're all aware of kind of like the high level, the use cases that people are trying to achieve with Kubernetes, and we can take steps towards measuring how well they're able to do that with the experience that they have today. So.
Cool. Yeah, I think this looks great. I obviously, like, I've chatted with you before about this, but I think as a really lightweight way to get started, this would be super interesting. It could possibly get us access to more people who'd be interested in talking more to us about their experience, and it kind of gives us a place to start as far as user research goes. As far as kicking this off, I think once everyone's had a chance to look at it, offer any feedback, anyways we want to improve it, just keeping in mind that we are trying to keep this as lightweight as possible, just so that people complete it. We don't want to kind of send like you can imagine that if someone was really passionate about either the positivity or negativity of their experience, they could spend a lot of time on these essay questions. Actually, Gabby, as a question, in SurveyMonkey, what is the character limit on those paragraphs? Because I would
Ooh.
put it at a really high level, because otherwise someone's going to start telling us about their adventure and get really annoyed.
Okay, I'll make a note here because that's a really good point. Yeah.
And the excuse me, the only other thing that I was going to suggest was that we put the lightest weight to answer questions up at the top. So like on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend Kubernetes to a friend or colleague, is a super lightweight thing to answer, so that we're going progressively more detailed as we go along.
Gotcha. So I'm moving it up a level. Double check, maybe. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Making sure that people are not cut off.
Yeah, and it's possible that I mean, if someone got really into answering it, because like when you ask a sysadmin who, like, I was reading the Reddit thread you shared in the chat channel yesterday. I'm not sure if anyone else saw that, but that was a pretty great thread of just sort of a bunch of, you know, people who, some of whom were traditional sysadmins who tried to use Kubernetes for sort of lightweight personal projects and were just deeply frustrated with it, and then other people who were using it for production who were like, yeah, like it actually is really good when you're trying to achieve these different use cases. And so I thought you were awesome to share that, because a lot of that feedback I could imagine us getting in this forum. So
Yeah.
yeah, it would be good to kind of know where people are getting frustrated. And I just think that this kind of format is a really nice, lightweight way to kind of get access to people who might have some better, you know, more in-depth feedback for one-on-one interview sessions.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Yeah, the thread was super interesting. I had a coworker that also shared it over here, and I was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah. So as Gabby mentioned, she dropped the links in the agenda, I think, and everyone who is part of the mailing list does have access and can comment and leave feedback. And we would like to try and, you know, agree that this is a good first research effort and ship this so that we can start kind of building a Rolodex of people who are interested in giving us more research data. So cool. Thanks so much for all the work you've done on that, Gabby. It's looking really good.
Oh yeah, happy to. Great.
And it looks like Pamela got internet access.
I did, but it's going to be noisy because I'm in a cafe and I'm not going to switch on my video.
Okay.
Because, yeah, it's probably just going to look odd. Hey, everybody, I see a lot of new faces on the group today. It's really nice to have everybody join in. Just to give you a little background, when we started this SIG, one of the main reasons we wanted to start this SIG was that we were looking for icons to make it consistent across our products, because we are kind of investing into Kubernetes. And we were like, okay, what's out there in the open source community that we can use in our products? And we didn't really find anything. And when we started this discussion, one of the first few things we discussed was like, hey, how do we build a repository of icons that could be consistent all, in the community, and we could all share it. So anytime a new designer comes on board, they don't have to think a little bit extra about just icons. That's something that's already out there. I've been putting together something, and it's, let me just go back to our chat. Give me a second. Where did it go? Okay. So I followed what Gabby had done initially in terms of when she was exploring for the survey, kind of followed the same format. So I'm just going to take you through this document. I've shared it with everybody, so feel free to write comments because this needs to be improved a lot. But the idea is, the goal as it is to unify the experience of using Kubernetes icons across the community and have a way of sharing these icons with everybody. Once you have access to the icon, you can use in a color orientation and size that you want to. The reason we wanted to do this and the outcome we are expecting out of this is to have detailed icon repository for Kubernetes icons or also technology icons, for us to use, or anybody who comes in terms of the Kubernetes community to use, and have some consistency across. And another positive out of this would be because a lot of Kubernetes is open source and there's a lot of integration with different tools. When you associate it in different products, we all speaking the same language. So when we're talking about a Kubernetes clusters, an icon, if you're kind of integrating with Prometheus, we're talking about the same language if this effort is adopted by everybody across. There is another similar effort going on out here. I can open this tab. I should probably link it to the correct one. But there are these icons that I've seen on the SIGs that are available. One of the things is that, of course, this is not something that's gone through a review, and it's not something we as a team or as a group has looked at. And also, it'd be nice to kind of have a proper standard guidelines around how we are building icons as we go forward, because it is something that are going to be used in complex UIs. So we can, as a team, go through these icons and see what actually work and what don't work. But currently there is an effort already out there, and there's a detailed presentation as well in terms of how these icons can be used. So the link's there, and we can discuss more about it. Now I'm going to go a little bit into details about what we as the VMware team have been doing. We have a Clarity website, which is the design system we use in-house. And there are a lot of icons available on this website. So if you go to Clarity Design and if you search for namespaces, you can actually access a namespace icon right from here. And you can download the SVG icon for that namespace icon. So this is a resource that's already available, and it's open source. It's a design system we use, but these are icons that we are using in-house today at VMware. We have different products that support Kubernetes, and all of them are using these icons because we wanted consistency in-house. But what I've done is, this is, of course, it's, if I just look at, there's a lot of icons here, and they might not all be relevant for us right now. As we go forward, of course, we can include a lot of icons into our repository, and we can probably categorize them in different sections. But going forward, at least I was thinking we can be a little bit more focused and identify objects that we really are using on a day-to-day basis and are very common across all our products. So I do have a Figma file that I created, which is open as well, and you all can access it. What I've done is I've made 2 documents right now, light and dark, and I've identified the top few that we've been using in-house right now, as like across our products. There are quite a few that are still needed, like services are missing, deployments is missing. Those are some common ones. PVCs. Those are things that are in our pipeline and we would want to work on. But currently in our product that we are recently going to be launching, these are the icons that we built in-house. Lilia Kim is a visual designer who's done all these illustrations. So this is definitely something that's already available, and we should take our time to review it and see what we think about it in terms of just the visual design, and just the design elements of it. Is this something that we want to go forward with? And you have time. I would encourage everyone to look at it. There's a comment section on top. Feel free to add comments as to what you think is good. And also feel free to share if you have something and you think would be, better aligned with us proposing out there to the community. Now going back. So that was what we've kind of been working on, but I don't think icons should be one person's job. So I did make like a documentation on how one could contribute icons. I think we need to have strict guidelines across around contributing icons. So say somebody has a need for a new icon, they can go and propose they are welcome to propose a new icon, but they should follow these guidelines or have some kind, we should have like a certain criteria that needs to be met for an icon to go into the icon packs for Kubernetes. So feel free to read this, and we can expand on this, after everybody's reviewed it and has added their comments. But for now, I was thinking that we could, definitely add what the default size is. It could be 36 by 36 and 16 by 16, because a lot of icons are very difficult to scale down. What is the stroke weight for the icons that we should follow. Also, I was thinking that we should definitely support white and black in terms of contributions, because a lot of people tend to use light or dark backgrounds. SVG formats are the best in terms of sharing icons, because you can change color, and they you're easily able to change or modify them. And scalability, I've seen this as a big problem, because at VMware, the product I work on, vSphere, is a very, very complicated, complex UI. And a lot of times the icons have to be really thought through, because you need to be able to like scale them down easily. So when you scale down an icon, the pixels tend to be affected. So that's something definitely we should look into. We have an accessibility head and team. I'm going to be working with them in terms of supporting what an icon should be when we are looking at accessibility. I do have some points, but I definitely wanted to run it by them before I put it in here. And lastly, design review and finalizing the icons. I do agree that people should, definitely contribute towards this. We could have a formal way of requesting for an icon or working towards an icon. But I think this forum that we have here can be used for design reviews, where we can make sure that the visual design of that icon meets our criteria. And we should have high standards, because this is something that's going to go into effect that we introduce to the community. And we should finalize the design as a group. But if there is a conflict, I would divert like the final decision to the chairs, and they can take a call on what icon needs to go into the pack. Now, I wanted to include more about, what are the icons that we already have. So these are the icons we've already worked on, which is already in the Figma file that you will look at. But we can also now go ahead and add request or required icons. So as groups, like when you are looking at this document, I would encourage everybody to add, icon, like just objects that you are currently using a lot and would need icons for. And then we can identify, everybody can probably just contribute towards this icon pack as we go forward. Yeah, that's it from me right now. I hope it wasn't too noisy.
Should we PR an owner's file for that directory?
Yeah, so I thought we should talk about that too. So the similar effort that Pamela noted doesn't have an owner's file, and so the kind of question is, I think if you read the description, it also says that those icons are really intended for presentations, and I'm not sure if anyone actually uses them. So I guess the question is, Valerie, do we want to own it, or do I don't know if we know who's worked on them in the past or where they came from. I guess we could do we could look at the history.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, they were donated by a company, and then ownership has just kind of been ad hoc since.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they do seem like a lot more presentation focused, because they are really heavy to be used within products. But I do definitely see some icons that we can pull out so that we don't have to, duplicate the effort, and we could maximize and do stuff. So
Yeah, you know what I kind of think we should do? So, great presentation. I feel like some of these might be useful. I feel like maybe the next step is once we as a group are like, yeah, we like these icons, or we just want more information about how other groups are thinking about icons, and would be to go to like SIG apps, where a lot of the people who are developing Kubernetes-based applications meet, and try presenting this there and see kind of what feedback we get from those people.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling that we might get a lot more feedback there because people already have running services where they may be, you know, developing applications on or for Kubernetes or building Kubernetes-based platforms. I also wonder, when I went to the Cluster API offsite last year, a bunch of people who are building like Kubernetes as a service offerings were there because they all are interested in using Cluster API. And that might be another group of people to ask about iconography and kind of see what they think from their various platform perspectives and if they could bring in their UX teams to talk to us about it.
Would the Kubernetes dashboard team also have some good input?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. The Kubernetes dashboard team. I was also thinking of Brian Lyle's open source Octant developer dashboard. Um, so I think those are our two major presentations. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to talk about? Questions they had? I think we have a bunch of new attendees. If you'd like to introduce yourself, feel free.
Sure. This is Eddie Donnell. I'm another VMware person, and I am particularly interested in thinking about Kubernetes from the point of view of the user, as opposed to from the point of view of the operator, despite coming from a historic operator background myself.
Hey, I'm Sanaya. I'm a designer at VMware as well. I've been there for about 4 months and just joining Pamel now on the Project Pacific team. So I'm excited to start working more closely with all the Kubernetes things and starting to be more active in the group as well.
Cool. Thanks for joining. Okay, well, if anyone has anything you would like to talk about related to usability, now is a great time. Also, our agenda is open, so feel free to add topics for follow-on meetings. Another thing that I'd really encourage is if you see a cool project that you think this group could benefit from a presentation about, feel free to suggest it and we can reach out to the maintainers and ask them if they'd like to present to us. I think for the next week, we're going to continue working on. We would love for this group to give us feedback on both the icons and the user research proposal, and then make progress on both of those efforts, and then kind of see where we are at the next meeting. Also, I guess I kind of wanted to ping Valerie. Valerie, how is the secure by default work going? Is that something that we have any updates on?
Yeah, I was going to give an update. There is a lot of motion, but not progress. I've been talking with some of the security people and the network people, but it's challenging to change anything. So after I put up the initial cap, I got a lot of feedback on some of the logistics and reasons why we don't necessarily want to implement default security. So I am still talking to people and kind of mulling over how to proceed. Essentially, there's a lot of reasons why we want things to fail open.
Could we get a link to the CAP in the agenda? Is it already there?
I think it's somewhere in the past. Let me double check.
And that's really interesting. I would be definitely interested in kind of understanding more about that feedback. I have also heard that there may be a motion away from pod security policies and more to like OPA style, which I was wondering if that might be some of the reason for some pushback.
Partially, yeah. I'm not very familiar with OPA. At a high level, it's a lot more powerful, but it's also substantially harder to adopt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a point of concern.
Yeah, there. I think the tooling. I think so. From what I heard, like the reason that pod security policies haven't kind of made it out of beta was because everyone's kind of like, oh, we're just going to invest in OPA instead. And I know that OPA had some interesting plugins that some people in the multi-tenancy group were really excited about with like core DNS plus OPA plugin model. So maybe it gets easier to use over time, question mark, but yeah.
Yeah, I suspect there could be a lot of bundling or making easier where people can just plunk something into their cluster.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Anyone else, or we can give everyone 29 minutes of their day back. Josephine, are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm new to this group, and I was wondering if I could book some one-on-one time with someone to learn a little bit more about how to get involved and how to contribute.
Yeah, for sure. What are you interested in?
I still have to go through all of the old meeting notes and figure out what like initiatives are up and coming or in progress. But yeah, like one-on-one time would be really great.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to hop on a Zoom, or we can just do it right after this meeting, if that would be interesting. And then if there's something specific you're interested in, I can funnel you to the right person. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Dasha, what we can do is that there's so many new people. Maybe we can arrange for one that you could actually talk to all of them this week, and I could arrange it because we have the new designers on the team as well, and they really wanted to meet you.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. Cool.
Yeah, so Justine, I'll send out an invite, and then you can join in. Anybody else who wants to join as well.
Okay. I'm not part of a formal group. Like I don't think my email address is anywhere.
Oh, okay. Why don't you send it in the chat? And what I have done is for in-house, I've put together instructions on how to be part of the SIG, and it has all instruction on how to be part of the Slack group, the email. So what I can do is I can post it on the SIG or something like that.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And chat in 3 weeks, if not before.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.